The latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Let's go back into the vault. Take you back to July of last year, about 3 weeks after the failed assassination attempt against President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. 3 weeks after that, we had testimony from Acting Director Ron Rowe. He was before Senate committee on the topic. And this exchange between Ron Rowe and Josh Hawley, in which you got the classic sort of everyone's responsible, so no one's responsible, cover your ass play by Ron Rowe on behalf of his agency and his fellow agents. That was said I want you to listen to what was said 3 weeks ago so we can take stock of where we are now a year removed.
So, Senator, when we post up, our methodology is to look at things that can see in on our protectees so that they can provide that coverage.
But why is there not a Secret Service counter sniper there with clear line of sight? That roof has a clear line of sight to the former president. Why didn't you put a Secret Service counter sniper there?
The Secret Service's counter sniper role is to neutralize those threats that are looking in on us from where the protectee is, not necessarily
you think maybe you might want to revise that protocol in light of what happened here?
They were protecting the principal, and I think the
principal got shot.
I understand that, sir.
So do you think you might want to revise the protocol? Let me ask you this. Who was the lead site agent who made the decision to leave the AGR building completely outside of the security perimeter? Who was that? Senator,
I cannot give you that name. This person is operational. They're still doing investigations. They're still doing protective visits.
Have they been relieved of duty?
Senator, they have not been relieved of duty. I know their name, by the way.
Why have they not been relieved of duty?
They are still cooperating, not only being interviewed by the FBI, but also by our Office of Professional Responsibility. And we will let the facts of the mission assurance and any further investigations play out.
Isn't the fact that a former president was shot, that a good American is dead, that other Americans were critically wounded, isn't that enough mission failure for you to say that the person who decided that building should not be in the security perimeter probably ought to be stepped down?
Senator, I think you're using the word decided, and I think we need to allow the investigation play out to include.
Who did make the decision then? If it wasn't the lead site agent, who made the decision not to put that in the security perimeter?
Senator, you're zeroing in on one particular agent. I want to find out exactly what was the entire decision process. So I think I want to be neutral and make sure that we get to the bottom of it and interview everybody in order to determine if there was more than one person who perhaps exercised bad judgment.
Well, sure. My question is, why don't you relieve everybody of duty who made bad judgment? So, yeah, you're right. I am zeroing in on somebody. I'm trying to find somebody who's accountable here. And you're telling me that the person who made the decision not to include this in the perimeter has not been relieved of duty. What about the person who's in charge of the interoperability of radio frequencies between local law enforcement and Secret Service? Has that person been relieved of duty?
No, Senator, because interoperability is a challenge, is a greater challenge than just one person. On that day, we had a counterpart system. It failed.
As the person who made the decision to send Donald Trump onto stage knowing that you had a security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir, they haven't.
Has the person who decided not to pull the former president off of stage when you knew that, in your words, the locals were working a serious security situation, has that person been relieved of duty?
No, sir. Again, I refer you back to my original answer that we are investigating this through a mission assurance, and as opposed to zeroing in on one,
what more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was? What more do you need to investigate
to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job. And I cannot,
a lot of people didn't do their jobs.
Put my thumb on the scale. Otherwise,
What do you mean put your thumb on the scale?
You're asking me, Senator, to completely make a rush to judgment about somebody failing. I acknowledge this was a failure of the Secret Service. Is it not
prima facie that somebody has failed? A former president was shot.
Sir, this could have been our Texas school book depository. I have lost sleep over that for the last 17 days, just like you have.
Somebody to hold them accountable.
I will tell you, Senator, that I will not rush to judgment, that people will be held accountable, and I will do so with integrity and not rush to judgment and put people unfairly persecuted.
Unfairly persecuted?
Unfairly,
We've got people who are
we
dead.
have to be able to have a proper investigation into this.
Okay, Mr. Rowe. So we're a year removed. Have you had the time for a proper investigation so people aren't unfairly persecuted? And now we're going to have the accountability that you promised back at the end of July of 2024? Is that where we are in July of 2025? For more on this, please be joined by Susan Crabtree, RealClearPolitics.com's national political correspondent, co-author of Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. Susan, thanks for joining us, and appreciate it.
Oh, it's wonderful to be with you again, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So did Ron Rowe keep his promise? Secret Service agency keep his promise?
Well, Ron Rowe is sitting in a plum job right now, lucrative job with the Chertoff Group. So
Michael Chertoff, former DHS. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and Kimberly Cheadle is sitting on her millions that some of it which she earned with working for PepsiCo, which Jill Biden helped her get that job. The mission assurance report that he is talking about has been classified. And that is evidence, exactly, my sources tell me, of a cover-up and why they don't want this information to be out there. In fact, and I don't think it would surprise you that I was asking about this for the last 2 weeks, about these suspensions. And instead of coming forward and talking to me, as I've been begging them to do for months and months, about the reforms in the Secret Service, about who was responsible, about the disciplinary actions or lack thereof, they decided to, when I became very pressing about the matter, 3 days before the assassination anniversary, they leaked it, gave it on a silver platter to CBS News without the names. So then next morning I provided the names to the public via my X.com account, and I just provided all the context about it. I can go chapter and verse. One of the reasons why Ron Rowe, I believe, and Director Cheadle were obscuring and outright lying about the facts of the matter in both of their appearances before Congress is because they are ultimately responsible for the bad decisions that led up to this. They could have had many more counter snipers at that event. They should have had many more counter snipers at that event, considering what we know now, that 10 days before the rally, they knew there was an acute Iranian threat to the president's life. And they provided those counter snipers. They dropped them in 2 days before that rally, and they only had 2 days to do what would have been normally take them 6 days to do their plan. He's talking about the site agent, but there are layers of responsibility for determining who and why that roof was not covered. And I can talk to you exactly who all was responsible. It was the site agent, her supervisors, and the counter sniper team and their supervisors that did not cover that roof properly. And guess what? In that mix I just told you, the supervisors got off scot-free, and the junior agents are taking the fall, albeit it's a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, just to be clear, for those who haven't got the details yet, 6 agents have been placed on varying durations of unpaid leave from 10 to 42 days per your reporting, Susan.
That's exactly right. And one of the most shocking revelations that I have seen over the last few days, I actually broke this story, but I will give the credit to the Senate investigators, Rand Paul and Chuck Grassley, put out reports over the weekend that I was live tweeting as I was reading them. And one of the most explosive news headlines is that the counter sniper that was responsible for the kill shot to Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin, is also the supervisor who failed to provide the basic oversight to get that AGR roof covered. Their counter sniper plan was a wreck. People are talking about this young agent that Holly was first trying to get the name of. Her name is Mio Perez. Mio Perez is an extremely inexperienced agent with the bad reputation of being a partier and unserious. And she was given the role of being in charge of the entire site security for the rally that day. But she has two male supervisors, far more experienced, and one was an inspector who was on the site to provide oversight and accountability and integrity. And he did not do his job. And those supervisors have gotten big promotions. One of them, they're both named Nick. Nick Menster is now the number 2 on the Laura and Eric Trump detail. And Nick Oleszewski is head, if you can believe this, of the inspections division, which is what I just said, is the inspections division, like most inspections divisions in federal government and the military, it exists to provide accountability and integrity for all of their operations.
What is the level?
Mind-blowing.
What is the level of the president's knowledge of these people and the responsible parties? I know from your reporting that he knew of at least one of the individuals who said, because he told a crowd, I guess, at a Secret Service event that that person was no longer welcome here, that person on Secret Service is no longer part of his details. So he at least knew one responsible party, despite Ron Rowe's high-hatting of Josh Hawley. There was some accountability delivered personally by Trump, but what is his general knowledge about what you're reporting and all of these individuals, both junior and senior?
Well, he's getting it from both the Secret Service and likely from the FBI on their part of Thomas Crooks, or the information by him. But if we talk about the Secret Service, they are going to do exactly what you just said. Everyone is responsible, so no one is responsible. Yeah. And there are layers and layers. Ultimately, it was the leadership of the Secret Service to set everybody up to fail because they did not provide the security assets time and time again because they were abiding by that old, outdated protocol that a former president doesn't get the same security assets as a president or vice president, or in this case, even a first lady, because she was having an event that night that had more security assets than the Butler rally, something that I reported on the day after on J14, the day afterwards. And they told me I was very wrong in a tweet directed to me that Fox News then picked up and went without speaking to me. So I was heading into the Republican National Committee with a cloud over my head. Keith Olbermann called me a fraud. Fast forward.
That's a badge of honor. Yeah.
True, actually. And then fast forward 6 days, and Senator Grassley had come up and done the hard work to verify my reporting that, in fact, there were 3 or 4 times the amount of post standards at Jill Biden's event than there was at the Butler rally. Surprise, surprise. But that was that outmoded protocol. And it was absolutely disgusting considering we knew, and he was briefed on an Iranian threat that still exists today and existed actually for a long time, but it was new information that they had received 10 days before from the intelligence community. And then now we're finding out that not everybody that was planning security that day was briefed on that.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that reporting that like they didn't know how to transmit classified information to the state and locals, and this was the disconnect in terms of the sharing of intel. And yet we talked to Thomas Baker yesterday, former FBI, who was involved in the John Hinckley assassination attempt investigation. And he said, wait, there's been a protocol of how to do that in place for two decades.
That's absurd. Yeah. No, I don't buy into this. And I also think that they're hiding behind that. I don't blame the Pittsburgh field office for making that a point when they were trying to get their disciplinary, their actions reduced, because they didn't know. The Pittsburgh team literally didn't know, but they could surmise. Think about it. Everyone knew that anyone in the know in Washington and elsewhere knew that Donald Trump was facing an Iranian threat. There was this 2022 video that the Iranians had circulated of a simulation of Donald Trump getting shot and killed, assassinated on a golf course by a drone. So everyone everyone in the intelligence community should have known that exists. It's certainly the Donald Trump detail, I'm told. When they arrive, anyone who joins the Donald Trump detail, when they arrive at Mar-a-Lago, they get briefed and they get their security clearance upgraded because of the Iranian threat, okay? One of the top reasons. So even Mios Perez, the site agent who Holly was talking about that day, she is saying, oh, I'm a victim. I didn't know about it. Well, you saw that there were counter snipers added for the first time on Thursday. What did you think was the reason that the counter snipers were being added? And everybody has some culpability in this. I agree with them that there's so many layers of failures here. I do agree. But ultimately, it's Kimberly Cheadle and Ron Rowe were following the old protocol, and they were denying those assets to the Donald Trump team for a year and a half, and Sean Curran was pushing back on that and had the receipts. And that's one of the reasons they couldn't take immediate disciplinary action against his team, and maybe him too, because he had the receipts and he was leveraging them against the bosses who he knew was responsible for that lame protocol. So it's a mess, and there's so many conflicts of interest here, even with Sean Curran now meeting out these slaps on the wrist and saying they can't fire their way out of this. That's because he was signed off on the security plan the day beforehand, even though it didn't adequately provide coverage and diagrams for that AGR building.
What a mess indeed. Susan Crabtree, RealClearPolitics.com's national political correspondent, co-author of Fool's Gold, The Radicals, Con Artists, and Traitors Who Killed the California Dream and Now Threaten Us All. Fool's Gold is the book. Susan Crabtree, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for your interest in this and your continued coverage of it.
For sure. And Susan Crabtree joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.